All right. So, hello again. It's Malika Dickerson once again from the New Progressives. This is our third episode in our new vlog series. And this one I call Joe, if you're listening. It's all about Joe Biden, and it's going to sound like a campaign ad, but I promise you it's not. I wrote this back in 2010, a year after my team was already in office. And so, but honestly, I could have written this anytime, long before Joe Biden ran for vice president, long before he ran for president. I've known Joe for a long time, quote unquote, not personally, never met him, but I know Joe, and I know he has a problem. Not with older black people. I mean, up until the everybody outside of white Iowa and white New Hampshire started voting, it was indisputably Joe Biden, and people were like, "Wow, black people and older black people love him some Joe." It's because we've been watching him for a while, and I'm gonna tell you why. And I wrote about this in 2010. Joe was elected to Congress the year I was born, and I've been watching politics since I was in elementary school. So I know Joe, and I am going to read this letter, and then hopefully, Joe, if you're listening, you'll heed my advice about your VP pick. But before we get into that, I want to take a little side note, and I did an informal poll of my roundtable, and it's a diverse group of both millennials and young people, but we're all black women. And this monument thing, first of all, it has the potential to be divisive and thrown into a whirlwind. And you already see the roots of it happening with people asking questions like, well, what if we start tearing down Martin Luther King statues? Here's the thing. The difference is what we honor with a statue or a monument in this country is something that we venerate, that we honor, that we put on a pedestal. And the only things we should be honoring in this country are the things that exemplify our ideals. All right. So everybody in this country has a complicated and nuanced past because this country was founded on slavery, because our Constitution upheld slavery until we had a civil war. And that civil war, one side of the argument won and one side lost. Yeah, that side that lost has been hanging on for 100 and some 70 years. Damn, it's over. Your day's done. We let you live with that myth way too long. The bubbles burst. Your myth is crashed. Every single monument, statue, army, U.S. military army base named after Confederate, draped in the Confederacy with that traitor flag goes down. That I am 1,000% for. Now you got people just ripping down statues because people had owned slaves. Well, that's different though. My sister said there's context. Okay, it was the time period, and I've told her before I love classic movies, but when I first started watching them, I had to remember to watch them in context. I dig on with Win as jacked up as it is. Historically speaking, it pisses me off. But as a love story, it's really very well acted, very good. I mean, Vivian Lee, Clark Gable, it's awesome as a romance, not historically. And so, but I do take it in context. There are movies back then that make you roll your eyes. But again, here's a point. I want to bring this up too. And this goes to Joe. I was born in 76. Joe pushed the Violence Against Women Act. In my entire life, since I've been born, you beat up a woman and you go to jail, right? You don't have that right. But before that, if I was married to a dude and he socked me in the jaw, well, that's the breaks. What did you say to piss him off? Right? That's unthinkable. And I was watching an episode of Mod. I don't remember watching that show growing up, but it was an episode from 1973. And I remember I was appalled watching it. It was the one where Walter's drinking habit. And The episode starts with Maud walking around in the kitchen. She turns around, she has a big old black eye. Her daughter laughs and is like, oh, did Walter do that? Rock, rock, rock. Man, what happened? Did you guys get in a fight again? Then the audience on the live audience, laugh track or whatever, everybody's rock, 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 rock. This is funny. Then Florence. I didn't know Florence from Good Times was their maid at one point. She comes in, she's like, whoa, that's a shiner. Rock, 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 rock. Girl. What? Audience cracking up. Rock, rock. I don't get that joke. See, women of my generation and younger do not get that joke. It's like somebody call the police. What the hell's wrong with them? But that's how much culture can change. How where we value can make a difference in the way our culture responds. And having a law like that on the books, having those 1-800 lines, when all my life growing up, call somebody. If you have abuse, call this abuse line. And you don't let anybody beat up on you, call the cops. But before that, legally, if we're married, I'm like a kid. You can whip my ass too. That changed because we quit allowing that to be. And we need to stop allowing these traitors to get away with honoring a traitorous history. A despicable history. A disgusting. It is the cancer, the root sin of our country. Why we still have to deal with these things. Why? In 1872, they couldn't pass an anti-lynching bill. And they couldn't pass one in 2020 either. Because of those same Republicans that used to be Democrats that are the grand old party that's become the grand UG party, the GUP. They all agree. We need to hang on to this heritage. What heritage? Trump got up in there talking about our heritage, not theirs. Whose? You mean the losers? The Confederates? The traitors? Yeah, y'all gotta go. Now, that's sad. George Washington had slaves. Thomas Jefferson had slaves, but they were both also presidents of the United States. They also did really good things. And Thomas Jefferson, based on his diaries and his notes, actually believed in equality. He believed that we couldn't create a new nation based on freedom and still enslave people. Yet he owned slaves. And so to my niece's point, the problem is not tearing down a statue to Washington, but to tell the truth, to teach the truth in schools, but also, like my point, instead of tearing down the Washington Monument, why not put along with why we honor George Washington the same information about why, Mount Vernon was run by hundreds of slaves, that he made a lot of money off of slave labor. We fought a civil war. It matters who was on what side. We should honor the people that fought against slavery, that fought on the side of the Union, that have always upheld the principles of our Constitution. And we should never honor the people that took up arms against us. We don't honor Nazis that we defeated in World War II. Yeah, and we defeated the Confederate rebels that carried that Confederate flag. It's about damn time all those things come down. That's where we all come down. Not every statue comes down. Andrew Jackson was a bastard, but he was also a U.S. president. There are more nuanced questions. I personally, Francis Scott Key, that MFer, he can come the hell down too. What did he do? We're honoring him because he wrote the Star Spangled Banner, but as Colin Kaepernick pointed out, you read the whole freaking thing. That is the most disgusting, vile piece of music. Why do we still sing this? Why is that still our national anthem? So yeah, tear his statue down. But we should know he wrote it, and that has been our national anthem. That's a fact, and that it is racist. I didn't know that until Colin Kaepernick made his stand. I appreciate that. Thank you, brother, man. Now I know. And that's what we need to change, this whole culture. That knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe. Knowledge is power. And so, yeah, as we think about these things, first of all, there's an easy thing that we should all get behind. Every patriot, every American should get behind, and that is every traitor flag goes down. Anybody carrying a Confederate flag, we should treat it like this swastika like Nazis did. Like Germany treats their old Nazi history. We should do the same thing with our slave history. And it's easy to decide because we had a civil war to decide it. And they lost. And now you've had 100, how long? 1865 till now to lick your wounds, to eat your sour grapes. It's over. You're done. Bye-bye now. And if you got a problem, you're just gonna have to sit and spin on that. What my Casey told me, my cousin said our granddad used to be like, scratch your ass and pound some glass or something like that. There you go. Second, I feel like if you've been following us, we had an audio podcast before we started doing this, Trish and I. And if you've read our blog, if you've gone to our blog, you've seen that, I've never been, I wouldn't identify politically as a liberal. And I quit registering as a Democrat in 1999 until I moved to California. You had to pick in the primary so you could vote in the primaries. I vote democratically because they're closest to what I believe values-wise, politically. But Democrats have always gotten on my nerves because they don't really speak to this generation. They are part of that same left-right paradigm, that blue-red paradigm. We've turned from this being the scarlet and gray game to this being the game between Ohio State and Michigan. I mean, this is an intramural fight. When we do politics, then we're supposed to come together as one team, because there are external threats. And we're stuck in this rivalry instead of governing. And those are two different things. This is not a game. Real lives are at stake. We're already at 120,000 plus Americans dead. Putin couldn't have done that with a ground war. But his puppet's doing it quick, fast, and in a hurry, isn't he? So anyway, we call ourselves New Progressives because we're not Teddy Roosevelt progressives. That was way back in the 20th century. We're 21st century progressives, real progressives, meaning we're not right or left, we're forward. We're not even center, forward. And forward isn't right or left. It's not Democratic or Republican. Whether or not climate change is real. We know it's real, and we know we're going to need air to breathe and water to drink and stuff like that. So we need to make real decisions about that. We also know in our world and in the future, most war isn't fought with tanks and choppers like they were in the 1950s. We need to be cyber secure. And that means we need smarter, younger, more knowledgeable people in Congress and in the presidency. Not dumber people, not older people. So the New Progressives, we talk no shit politics, and we're not right, left, or center. We go forward. Whatever is going to help move this country forward. And again, tearing down monuments to slavery and racism has been long time overdue to tear down. That's progress. We're progressing. And you knuckle draggers that insist on living in the 19th century, yeah, you can scratch your ass and pound some glass. You're the 20%, and you can shut the F up now. And last, before we get into the letter, before I read this letter to you that I wrote to Joe, my man Joe Biden, our pick, and I've said this before, if we had a third party, I don't think you can just create a third party out thin ice, but I think we are going to push our values. And we believe that this is not a third party. This is the 75% party, the Patriot Party. This includes people that used to be Republicans until they turned into the GUP. Instead of the GOP, they became the GUP, the Grand Ug Party. They believe in climate change. They believe in Jesus and science like we do at the New Progressives. We don't have those racial paradigms from the past that they had. Now, we will disagree economically because that trickle-down voodoo economics bullshit has got to go, just like those monuments do. It's stupid. It never works. It's wrong. It's part of that greed culture, and we're against that in the New Progressives. So we'll talk more about who we are, and we've got a bunch of people who follow us on Facebook and stuff, and so they know who we are. Now that we're doing this video vlog, it's gone out, I've had people that I don't know ask me questions and stuff. And so that's who the new progressives are. We're actually literally new progressives, and we want progressive candidates. So our ticket, if we had had a people's choice, would have been Mr. Eric Holder and Julian Castro. I think they would have been perfect for the time. But we got Joe. And I ain't mad about Joe. Joe's too old. Joe should have run in 2016, and we wouldn't even have had a Trump if you'd have done that. But okay, shoulda, woulda, coulda. We can't. Here's where we are now. And you can make or break your ticket with your pick. Now, I think my dad and I, as you're going to find out from this piece I'm about to read you, may have been the only people on earth who knew outside of the President Obama's circle that he was about to pick you. And that was why that was the wisest, best choice he could make. And that's because my dad and I have been watching you the whole time you've been in Congress. And so I love you. You've always had our back, and I got your back. So trust me when I say the 4 people that were top of the line that most people are talking about. 1, let's deal with Stacey Abrams first. Mrs. Stacey Abrams. Stacey Abrams, that woman can do whatever she puts her mind to. She is qualified to be president. The thing about Stacey Abrams is she doesn't want to be president. Stacey Abrams wants to be governor of Georgia. She technically is governor of Georgia, and she should run for governor of Georgia. I have a feeling that Kemp has a lot of reasons to be recalled long before 2022 comes around. So I'm for Stacey staying in the vote fight with Fair Fight, staying in the mix to help push these ballots, these down ballots, until we get her in the governorship, and she will finally be legally, officially the first Black woman to govern any of these United States of America. I'm not from Georgia. I'm Ohio through and through, but my mom's people are all Georgia. We got a lot of people still down there. And I know how y'all are about Georgia. You love Georgia. That's your place. You've been fighting and working so hard your whole life to make your home better. That's where you want to be. That's where you should be. That's where we need you to be. We don't need you to be VP. You talk about Kamala Harris, because Senator Harris and Senator Warren and Senator Booker and Senator Bennett and all the other senators who wasted the last 2 years running for president and treating the Senate as if it's a stepping stone instead of being in the Senate. Yeah, be in the Senate. We need people like you in the Senate. Senator Harris is only the 2nd Black woman in 244 years to be elected to our United States Senate. Already, since she's stopped running for president, and it seems like she's giving up the ghost on being vice president, thankfully. Now she's acting like the senator that got her all the attention to begin with. That's why everybody started thinking, well, maybe she could be president, because she got in the Senate and was asking smart, tough questions, was not afraid. We need that different perspective. And I think Senator Harris would make an excellent Senate Majority Leader next year. Ambassador Rice. I respect Ambassador Rice. I bought her book for my mom on Mother's Day this year. She's tough. She's that old school, toughness. Black woman that I love. And we are definitely going to need help fixing our international relations after this administration. We're going to need somebody with the diplomatic experience that she has to help us internationally. And she's way more than qualified to do that for us, for President Joe Biden. I like her better as Secretary of State. I think because Joe is way more than qualified to handle that duty himself. And who better than a new president, an actual president of these United States, to take the helm in rebuilding our alliances around the world. And everybody already knows Joe, so they'll understand immediately when he takes office. Joe was chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee in the Senate. I mean, I know him and President Obama worked like that. So, yeah, they worked together for 8 years, he and Ambassador Rice, so they've already got a working relationship. But again, that's not really where we need Ambassador Rice. We need her. I think she would make an excellent Secretary of State. I think our diplomats and our ambassadors would love to have to work for her. All of our state employee and State Department employees would love to have somebody like her in there. And so that brings me, Joe, Vice President Joe Biden, to your VP pick. This will make your ticket. Believe me when I say this. You want Representative Val Demings on your ticket. This woman is tough. She's old school tough. 30 years experience in law enforcement. As a freshman in the House, earned that spot as an impeachment manager because she has tough, smart, laser questions, her whole demeanor, her presentation, and she's going to help you navigate these territories. I love you, Joe. We were woke before there was such thing as being woke as you could be as a white dude from your era. But you have blind spots, and it's awesome that you're trying, and that's what I expect from you. That's part of who you are and why so many of us. I'm Gen X. I ain't that damn old, but I agree with a lot of older Black people. We are in that same boat. We love you too because we remember you. And so pick Val. Trust me when I say this. And now I'm going to read this piece to you. So you know. I mean, I know a thing or two about a thing or two. I haven't written any books in academia, but I know a thing or two about a thing or two. Let's see if I can get this right for you guys. So again, I wrote this piece back in 2010. Now I'm changing the title to Joe, if you're listening. And it starts, now I'm a better writer now than I was a decade ago. I'm a professional writer. So I'm going to read it just as I wrote it. My love of politics began at an early age. I remember as far back as elementary school, watching the news with my dad. In the mornings as we got ready for school, Daddy would have Washington Journal on C-SPAN blasted from his bedroom TV all the way to the living room TV. In the evenings, he watched Crossfire in the evening news. On Sundays, it was Sunday morning on CBS. And when it wasn't football season, he watched Meet the Press. If it was Sunday, it was Meet the Press in our house. Watching Crossfire. There we go. All right. Damn it. Sorry, people. Watching Crossfire. There we go. I went down too much. Watching Crossfire with Daddy was most entertaining. A group of panelists would sit around the table with a moderator and talk politics. The thing that was so entertaining about Crossfire was the conversation would start very sedately, but it wouldn't take long for these grown-ups to start foaming at the mouth and turning red, yelling over each other. Half the time I thought someone was going to pick up a chair and toss it across the table, WWE style. Daddy would be on our side of the boob tube yelling at the TV. Nobody could hear or understand what the other was saying. I used to think, what are they talking about? That was really my draw into politics, Crossfire. A bunch of grown-ups sitting around the table yelling at each other in incomprehensible exchanges while Daddy barked at them from his rocking chair. It's fascinating. I also learned the word recession around that time. It came up often on these shows. I asked Daddy, recession, what is a recession? In Daddy's typical form, he said, look it up. I said, how do you spell it? He said, sound it out. And I've always been an excellent speller. This is why. You couldn't just ask my dad what a word meant without it turning into a spelling and vocabulary lesson. There was talk about recession all the time in the mid-'80s. Strikes and rumors of strikes. And you have to understand, I come from a union family. We have been union all our lives. My dad is union. My granddad was union. My great-granddad was union. I'm in a freelancers union. My brother's in a union. We are a union family. So the 80s, as I remember it, it felt like the 80s themselves felt a lot like an attack, a personal attack on all of us, on people like us. And I remember Joe, he spoke for us. It was like, he always was the one who would be in our shoes. He was living on a lawyer salary and a congressman's salary. And yet, the things he was saying in Congress, on the floor, the things he was saying in his press conferences after these votes, or on these evening shows, were the things that we believed, that we knew to be true. How did he know with this small black union family in rural Ohio was going through? He did. My dad was a blue-collar union worker. My mom worked as a scrub tech at the hospital. We were the average middle-income family. On Daddy's job, there was always talk of a strike in the 80s. He was on strike in 76, the year I was born. There are no newborn pictures of me. They were too broke to afford a camera, so I just appear in the family photos at like 6 months old. Like I'm big by the time I show up, you know. I had no recollection of that strike, but with another one looming, I got very interested in what the hell they were saying on Crossfire and Meet the Press and Washington Journal. It was the Reagan recession, and a lot of the blue-collar workers Reagan had convinced to vote for him were falling off. I remember seeing unemployment lines, like bread lines, during the Great Depression on the nightly news. That's when Daddy would watch C-SPAN, even in the evenings. We'd watch the House of Representatives voting on issues concerning the recession, trying to head it off. Of all of the members of Congress, one in particular stood out above the rest. My guy, Joe. He was young. Excuse me. He was fiery, even back then. The press would remark at Joe Biden's rants. Daddy would cheer him every time. It was like Joe Biden was watching with us in the evenings, because he would be saying everything that my dad had been yelling at the TV night after night. The media would say, Joe Biden let one fly again. I remember one press conference. All of Joe Biden's colleagues were walking up to the podium, giving their comments after a defeated vote on some piece of legislation. The cameras caught Joe somewhere outside of the press gallery and asked him about the argument the opposition was making against the bill. My guy Joe said, that's bullshit. It's bullshit. Daddy clapping his hands loudly, Who you telling, Joe? I thought, oh, he cussed. But I liked it. And Joe Biden is in no way responsible for the fact that I talk like a sailor when I get heated talking politics. No one else in Congress talked like Joe. It wasn't that he wasn't afraid to drop a bomb on the press. It was how he said it. He was as frustrated and annoyed as people like my dad were, and he wasn't afraid to show it. He was for the regular guy. He was our guy, Daddy's guy, my guy, Joe. I knew whenever he spoke, even though he didn't represent Ohio, he represented people like us in Ohio and across the country. He spoke for us. As the years rolled on, my interest in politics only deepened. I understood the debates more and was able to form my own opinions. Daddy and I would talk about what was said and give our takes on the issues, but always, we knew Joe would come down on our side of the issue. They say that a gaffe is when a politician accidentally tells the truth. Joe doesn't do any of it accidentally. He means what he says, and that's why I love him. After every debate, every vote, every issue, as I got older, I always looked to hear what Joe had to say about it. I use a word about Joe Biden that I rarely ever use in politics: trust. I trust Joe Biden. I trust his opinions, and I trust his intentions. He is a good man, a man of the people, a regular Joe. The best thing about Joe is that he's never lost it. I saw Trump's commercial for his reelection. He was like, Joe Biden is crazy. He's losing it. Does anybody have a mirror? Jeez. The best thing about Joe is that he's never lost it, that fire. He has not changed over all of these years. A lot of people in the House are outspoken and irreverent, but as soon as they make that move up to the Senate, they become stoic and hardened, afraid to speak their minds. Not my guy, Joe. He has stayed fiery and has never ceased to tell the truth on purpose, even as a senator. When President Obama threw his hat into the ring to run for president, he was my pick from the start. I'll tell you more about that, as I'm going to read this piece to you too. But if Obama didn't get the nod, you already know who my second choice was, my guy Joe. Still a C-SPAN junkie. Once Obama got elected to the Senate, I watched his relationship with Joe. No doubt he knows even better what I know about Joe. So when Barack Obama, after getting the nomination, was looking around for a vice president, my first choice was Joe Biden. I listened to all of the chatter around the draft picks that the media was foaming over. Hillary supporters were putting her name on the list. There was talk about Tim Kaine. I like Tim Kaine, but I wasn't satisfied. They bandied about Mark Warner, former governor of Virginia. He's all right too, but Bill Richardson, ugh. Everyone seemed like a dull choice, but with Joe, the media said he was like crazy Uncle Joe who couldn't be controlled. They said that the Obama campaign had been so disciplined, they didn't think that Joe could be disciplined enough to run on the ticket. That wasn't my hesitation. I imagine President Obama, Barack Obama, appreciated the Joe Biden truth-telling that I have grown to adore for over 2 decades, for 3 decades now, 4 decades. Ugh. My thoughts were that Joe had been independent his whole political career, able to say whatever he wanted. He was his own boss. Would he be willing to be second in command? He had his own presidential aspirations. Would he see taking the job as VP as beneath him? Would he overshine the president? As the announcement grew closer and the press began dropping names from the list, one pundit said something that caught my attention. I can't remember who it was or what I was watching when somebody said, Joe Biden has been unusually absent from the media these last couple of weeks. I knew it at that moment. He's going to pick Joe Biden. Daddy called me a week before the announcement. We still can't have a conversation without talking politics. He said, what do you think, Cheese? My nickname. Who's he going to pick? I mean, you can tell why my nickname is Cheese. I said, smiling through the phone, I think he's going to pick Joe. Daddy said, you think? I really think he's going to pick Joe. At work, members of my informal Democratic caucus were all thinking Hillary Clinton or Tim Kaine. I had turned a lot of those heel raisers into President Obama supporters, by the way. I said, it's Joe Biden. I bet you $1 million he picks Joe Biden. That Saturday, on my birthday, watching the future President Obama give the introduction, I was anxious and excited. Then the words came. For months, I searched for a leader to finish this journey alongside me, to join me in making Washington work for the American people. I searched for a leader who understands the rising costs confronting working people and who will always put their dreams first. A leader who sees clearly the challenges facing America in a changing world, with our security and standing set back by 8 years of a failed foreign policy, now 4. A leader who shares my vision of an open government that calls all citizens, Democrats, Republicans, and independents to a common purpose, progressives. Above all, I searched for a leader who is ready to step in and be president. Today, I have come back to Springfield to tell you that I found that leader, a man with a distinguished record and a fundamental decency. And that man is Joe Biden. What a birthday gift. My guy Barack and my guy Joe. Daddy called me as soon as the announcement was made. Joe Biden. I told you, I yelled. I can hear him clapping his hands in the background. Daddy said, that's a good pick. That's a good pick. Hell yeah, that's a good pick. From being a little elementary school kid to a full-grown adult, I've watched Joe Biden. I've never met him, but I feel like I know him well. If I ever met him, I'd give him a big bear hug and a kiss. I mean, I know he creeped out a lot of chicks. I know him. He's my Uncle Joe. I love him. I'll give him a hug and a kiss. That's my guy. Yeah. So, and this is how I ended it, because again, I wrote this in 2010. And now with all the talk in the press about President Obama looking for someone other than Joe Biden to run on his ticket in 2012, I say, in the words of my guy Joe, that's bullshit. That's my guy Joe. Again, that sounds like a campaign ad, don't it? I wrote that a grip ago, and I mean it, and I still mean it. Just Joe. One thing you can always depend on about Joe Biden, he gonna tell you what he thinks. He tells the truth. And I'm a truth teller, and I appreciate fellow truth tellers. So it makes sense that I've always liked me some Joe. So again, for you young black kids, for you young people, I mean, his problem with young people goes beyond the race. It's just young people in general. They see, again, and trust me, I know. I wanted somebody younger. I love you, Joe, but you're well beyond retirement age, as most people serving in our government are. Let's be real. Yeah, we got to get younger. That's what keeps our country young and progressive and vibrant and new and experimenting and being the leader in the world, because we They young and vibrant. No, we got a bunch of old people who went from the can-do generation to the can't-do. You know, y'all need to shut up and sit down. You're old. We got this. So, Joe, again, I'm telling you personally, I don't even know here we go. I'm telling you personally, Joe Biden, I love you, and I've loved you my whole life, and I'm not going to steer you wrong. You've always fought for me. I'm telling you, pick Representative Demings. That's going to make your ticket. I'm working my ass for your ticket. And let me tell you, this is another piece. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not just a casual political observer. I've never ceased watching politics. I've watched all y'all. I've watched so much House of Representatives. I should probably have already run for an office, but I'm a writer, and that's what I want to do. And that's what I'm finally doing. So no thanks. But this is my contribution. But I got a degree in some of this stuff. I got a minor in political science accidentally because this stuff has always interested me. So, and on top of that, I have a really high intuition. My political skills are honed, and I'm good at picking winners. And here's some more proof of that. This is a piece I wrote, again, back in 2010, called A Voice in the Woods. And this is just to add to my credibility, Joe, so you understand. Pick Val Demings. I didn't just hear about Barack Obama in 2007 when he decided to run for office. His address, at the 2004 Democratic National Convention wasn't the first time I heard about him either. I noticed Barack Obama almost 2 years prior on Meet the Press because he was a voice in the woods for me. Back in 2002, beginning of 2003, I was still living in Ohio. This is back when I lived in San Diego. The drumbeat to war in Iraq was deafening there. I was against the war from the beginning. I, like everyone else after 9/11, wanted to get the bastards who attacked us. Al-Qaeda claimed responsibility for it. They were jumping and cheering in the streets afterward. I, like everyone else, wanted to go get the sons of bitches. Then barely even a month after 9/11, all of a sudden, all I kept hearing was Saddam Hussein and weapons of mass destruction. Like a CD player skipping from track 1 to track 12. It was a dramatic leap. All of our allies were with us in Afghanistan. We were justified to attack back after such a horrendous assault on our homeland. But the Saddam Hussein shit was coming out of nowhere. It was a distraction. It was hot-headed, wrong-headed, and for me, very suspicious. I remember in 2000, during the presidential debate, when George W. Bush answered a question about Saddam Hussein. He was saying he was a bad guy and that we should take him out. Then, I'll never forget, he said, after all, he did try to kill my daddy. As if that was further justification for going to war with Iraq. Well, I mean, what the hell did that have to do with anything? I thought, was he seriously contemplating sending our men and women to war, even partly on a personal vendetta? He didn't kill his daddy. Get over it. I was suspicious from that point on. Not to mention his selection of Dick Cheney as his VP. I didn't trust either one of them. In almost every debate that election, Bush went out of his way to talk about Saddam Hussein in Iraq. So now, only 9 months into his presidency, war came to us out of Afghanistan. To sharply turn in 30 days or less to making this about going after Saddam Hussein was, to me, utterly reckless and extremely suspect. More than that, what shocked me beyond belief was how quickly the American public shifted sharply right along with him. For a year, the calls for war in Iraq grew louder and louder. The American people were split down the middle. And in Ohio, there was no question in the president. They were buying into the mushroom cloud argument Cheney was making a whole hog. I was in the twilight zone. Where I worked, otherwise rational people were all falling in line. Quote, we have to support the president. Quote, weapons of mass destructions, blah, blah, blah. There were 3 of us, Sprague, Joe, and I, who were surrounded by this insanity. I mean, I don't think it's coincidental that we were the 3 Ohio State College graduates, but okay. We were surrounded by this insanity. We would huddle together at happy hour and in corners of the office wondering why the hell no one was questioning this sudden change to Iraq. I would challenge my co-workers, pointing out that our whole objective for going to war was to stop the people who committed the terrorist attack that killed 3,000 Americans on 9/11. Saddam Hussein had nothing to do with it. Al-Qaeda had already claimed responsibility for it. Why would we veer off like this into an unnecessary war when we had an actual war to fight? I have a picture of you remember Freedom Fries? I was shut down. I was called unpatriotic. I was being, quote, un-American by not supporting the president, quote, at a time of war. I watched guests from other countries on C-SPAN, intelligence agents who supplied the intel on WMD, where all of this drumbeat was coming from. And even they were saying the intelligence was questionable at best. The people giving us that intelligence didn't think it was very credible. I knew this as a regular citizen just from watching C-SPAN. Surely the president and his vice president knew as much. We rue the day that asking a question in this country for something as serious as committing our troops to war becomes, quote, un-American. Yet there was no stopping the drumbeat. Even those who were asking questions were hesitant to go as far as to say they would vote against waging war in Iraq. In October of 2002, months before shock and all, the Senate was debating and authorizing the war in Iraq. On principle, I was against our Congress handing over the power to declare war to any president, let alone a president who, to me, seemed hell-bent on pursuing this vendetta and using our U.S. military to do it. There is a reason why the power to declare war rests with the Congress, with the people, and not the president. The bill was too vague, too broad, and handed him damn near unilateral power to go to war with whomever that president deemed fit. I wasn't for giving up the power of the people in that way. Most Democrats in Congress weren't either. Yet, I listened to the Senate debate as one by one, they stood up and gave all of the reasons why we shouldn't go to war with Iraq. John Kerry spoke about how Colin Powell said, if you break it, you bought it, where Iraq is concerned. It will be costly in blood and treasure. Like almost everyone who supported that war, he ended his speech with, in a time of war, we have to support the president. Those words made my blood boil as one after the other, the media, Congress, people around me, all kept saying that stupid ass line. We have to support the president at a time of war. Without question, without reason. Do we all just follow blindly? I mean, this is a democracy. We all have a responsibility to question our decisions as a nation. It is completely American and patriotic to do so. The worst, the one that broke my heart, was when my beloved Joe Biden, whom I've always trusted to do what was right and not kowtow to political rationale, got up and spoke. He said everything right, how this was going to fan the flames of anti-American sentiment, that it would be a distraction from the war in Afghanistan, but the words that I had grown to hate. At a time of war, we have to support the president. Et tu, Joe? In all, 21 Democrats voted their conscience and voted no on Joint Resolution 114. Democrats like Jack Reed, Russ Feingold, Ted Kennedy, Barbara Boxer, Patrick Leahy, all voted no. One independent and one Republican, Lincoln Chafee, no longer Republican enough for his party, also voted. The vote passed the Senate 77-23. And the House passed it 296-133. Fate was sealed and war in Iraq was inevitable. Democrats pleaded with the administration to allow the UN inspectors time to verify Hussein did in fact have WMD, but nothing was stopping it. Republicans and half the country was prepared to go it alone, break it and buy it. John Kerry regretted his vote immediately, as did my beloved Joe. It was too late. The die had been cast. Then one Sunday morning, I was in my master bathroom doing my hair, listening to Meet the Press. Even my beloved Tim Ressert was pressing almost every guest that contradicted the company line. Shouldn't we support the president at a time of war? I never knew where Tim stood on issues. I just knew he asked the best and toughest questions no matter what he believed. But something about the way he was questioning people as the war with Iraq drew closer led me to believe that he too believed that we should be supporting the president at a time of war on principle. As I was curling my hair, I heard Tim pressing some guy I'd never heard before. I didn't know who it was he was interviewing, but I listened as he pressed this guy. If you were in the Senate at the time, would you have voted for joint resolution? No, and here's why, ... The guy responded. Tim interjected before he could finish his thought. Don't you think at a time of war we should support the president? Barack Obama then began to rattle off all the reasons war in Iraq was a mistake, that it would be costly, it would distract us from the war in Afghanistan, it would fan the flames of anti-American sentiment. Tim Reznor interjected again, something like, is there any instance where you think war would be justified? And Barack Obama said, look, Tim, I'm not against all wars, I'm against dumb wars. A voice in the woods. I ran from the bathroom into my bedroom trying to see who it was that said that. Who's this guy? I can't even pronounce his name. I pronounce it like a Brit. Barack Obama. I thought, hey, when did we elect a black guy to the Senate? And why are we listening to this guy? Then I know it's the lower third on the screen candidate for the U.S. Senate from Illinois. He was only a senator in the state legislature in Illinois. No wonder no one was listening to him. But I was. I've followed him politically ever since. What I loved about that moment, when all of the people I had always looked up to in politics and in the press were following a narrative handed down from the White House, when other Democrats were hesitant to make a stand for fear of appearing weak on terror, this guy spoke with conviction and unapologetically. During the 2008 campaign, he was the only Democratic candidate for president that had opposed the war authorization from the beginning. Hillary Clinton argued that he wasn't a senator at the time, so he couldn't say what he would have done and had he been in the Senate at the time of the vote. I disagree. When he made those comments, when he gave that anti-war speech in October 2002, he was in the middle of an election that he could have very well lost for taking that position. He had lost that bid already for that same Senate seat. It was politically courageous, and he didn't care if he lost his seat. He was the voice in the woods for millions and millions of us who opposed that war at a time when we were in the minority. Maybe me and Sprague and Joe were living in the twilight zone, but somebody out there was speaking truth to power. It's amazing how different our backgrounds are, but how we've come to the same political conclusions on almost everything, even more so than my dad and I. I've never agreed with anyone politically as much as I do Barack Obama. I call him my political twin. I hate it in some ways. I'm a skeptic in politics. I don't agree 100% with anyone, yet somehow, on issue after issue, President Obama and I have come to the same conclusions. In most ways, it's great, especially since he was my president for 8 years. He has guts, and beyond that, he's freaking brilliant. And I am an unapologetic Obama maniac. And he's not bad looking to boot. And I know we're all supposed to be anti-intellectual these days, but those are two characteristics that I dig the most in my elected officials: brilliance and courage. And I said President Obama, not to mention he's very easy on the eyes, but that's just icing on the cake. And Joe was cute back in the day. And back in the day, it would have been a lot easier for him to make this kind of a pitch to this crowd. And so, Joe, trust me when I say you need Representative Val Demings. I'm pretty smart about these kinds of things. Pretty wise politically. And I know I'm young, but trust me when I say that's who you need. You need to focus on the COVID response and rebuilding our alliances. She needs, and don't let him, Joe, listen. Now I just went over. You broke my heart. Make me happy again. Now, there are already these boo birds. I heard one dude so far, but it is going to get louder. Oh, you don't want to spend the next administration looking back at the last one. I'll just shut the door on the Trump administration. Flynn goes, Manafort goes, all the corruption and all that. Well, he's done. No. Oh, hell no. Listen, these people are responsible for the deaths of children on our border in our custody. They are responsible for the deaths of more, and this is to date. We don't know by November how many Americans will be dead from this pandemic, but we're already at 120,000 plus. Oh, hell no. We do not turn the page. We do not turn the page. And Val Demings, I don't think we could have picked a better person than besides Eric Holder than a Representative Val Demings to roll up her sleeves, get out the disinfectant, build up a team, and We're not going back and looking back and spending the administration looking back. And this is when President Obama got elected, we were falling off of a cliff economically. And he tasked Joe Biden with helping to rebuild our economy to administer the Recovery Act. And that's because we were in the middle of 2 wars and we needed President Obama to rebuild all of our alliances to get out of Iraq. We were on borrowed time for a lot of shit. And he needed a vice president he could trust. And Joe, you can trust Representative Demings to put together a kick-ass team to go after these freaks because we have to. Listen, here's the thing. We've got a lot of punk-ass parents, and I know this because you're punk-ass senators, because you're scared, because you think you're in the minority, that you have no power. I don't know how you would live in black skin or female boobs if you think being a minority leaves you powerless. Chuck Schumer. I mean, you see all these, Mitch McConnell, he don't give a damn that he's helped destroy this country. He got all these judges to serve for lifetime. And you just rubber stamped it because, well, they have a 50. I remember for 8 effing years under President Obama, where every vote had to pass a 60-vote hurdle. Y'all never once made them actually filibuster. They just threatened to filibuster. Oh, no, they're going to filibuster. They threatened, don't you dare pull that nuclear option. If you let this pass on the less than 60 vote majority, then that's going to tit for tat's going to work. And Democrats, no, Harry Reid, we can't pull the nuclear option. And what did Mitch McConnell do as soon as he got in office? The nuclear option. I mean, literally appointing Supreme Court judges on a 53 vote majority, where the Constitution says it has to be 60. And Democrats go, well, I don't know what we can do. We're in the minority. Y'all are auditioning too. It ain't just Joe. And this isn't a stepping stone. We need you to actually be senators. You mean to tell me y'all can convince 3 Republicans on anything? I mean, I've watched Senator Harris these last couple of weeks, and I'm like, you're the difference maker, lady. You've got a presidential following. And so do you, Senator Warren. Use them to move some votes in the Senate. Don't just seed the game. God forbid y'all ever coached any kind of sport. Well, I guess we got to lose the game. We're behind by 2 touchdowns. We only got another quarter to win. It's never going to happen, I guess. In full disclosure, my dad was a defensive coach of our Pee Wee football team and the military police. So I'm raised, male or female. This is punk stuff. You ain't all weak and feeble. I mean, get tough. I mean, Barr gets to just refuse to appear after a subpoena has been issued for high crimes and misdemeanors against our Constitution. Well, Ed Nadler said there's no way he's going to get impeached, but you can. You've been saying for 2 weeks, well, we can eliminate the budget from his department, his office. You could jail him too. Do you know those powers are in the Constitution for a reason? If there were no penalty for murder, I think damn near all of us would already be murderers. I mean, at least 1 or 2. There would be a lot more murderers in the world if it was like killing a gnat. If they don't have to pay a price, then they don't pay. And then you're setting us up for this to repeat. We let bygones be bygones after the Civil War. We let them hang on to this myth. We've never finished Reconstruction because of it. We let Bush get away with his war crimes, these fake wars. So now you can just fake stuff and lie. And that's not high enough of a crime. You're going to let everything this asshole just did? You can be a traitor and that's not a high enough crime in America to be impeached, to go to prison? But if you get caught with some dope or some weed, then that, you might serve a life sentence for that. We're talking about equality and truth and justice here today. And that applies to, yes, everybody equally. And they have committed the worst crimes you commit against this country, against the citizens of this country, and against the Constitution. There isn't a prison low enough to hold them. I need somebody in that VP spot whose job it is to do that and not to listen to the, oh, you're going to look at the last, yes, you're damn right. We're going to look at we're going to uncover every freaking rock. We're going to get all these creepy crawlies out of here. He talked about draining the swamp. He didn't tell you he was going to collect the swamp creatures and fill our government with them. Yeah, well, we need fumigation. That's what's finna happen. So that's today's speech. And we'll be doing another one. Stay tuned for the 1%er argument. Thank you.